whole issue of this, of talking points, frankly, throughout this process has been a sideshow. The fact that this keeps on getting churned out, frankly, has a lot to do with political motivations. We've had folks who have challenged Hillary Clinton's integrity, Susan Rice's integrity, Mike Mullen and Tom Pickering's integrity. It's a given that mine gets challenged by these same folks. They've used it for fundraising.
That was President Obama today pushing back against Republican claims of a Benghazi cover-up. Politico reports today that John Boehner has told leadership colleagues when they're focusing on the terrorist attack, they're fighting on their political ground. This is all Boehner, said one senior Republican aide of the focus on Benghazi. He's obsessed with it. He brings it up all the time. Nia Malika Henderson, when did John Boehner get obsessed with this? Because the word was months ago he kind of wanted it to go away. They'd played it for all it was worth.
That's right. I mean, this has been a whole iteration, right? At first you had Romney playing it for all it was worth for a while during the 2012 campaign. Eventually he sort of let it go.
Well, getting a little embarrassed in a presidential debate will quiet you down on that subject.
Much to the dismay of John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who wanted him to push a little further. But John Boehner very much realizes that the base has been chomping at the bit around Benghazi for the last 8 months. You had the president come out today and say there is no there, and that is true. As much as they have pushed this investigation along and had these hearings, you had ICE 2 or 3 years ago say that he feels like this administration is one of the most corrupt administrations in American history. So here he goes out with these Benghazi hearings to sort of prove his initial assessment. But again, there isn't much there that has come out of these latest hearings around this. And I think what you have here is we're seeing sort of a bureaucratic knife fight, right, between the CIA and the State Department, changing the talking points, one to cover, each other's backs, essentially. But, the president very well knows that this is political. And I think Boehner does smell blood, quite frankly, for 2014, because he thinks he's going to be able to gin up the base around this issue going into that election.
The so-called talking points issue of this memo about what it was really about. I, for one, thought the talking points were ridiculous when I heard them. I never believed the movie was the provocation for this, and I never allowed it. I never said on this show the movie did this. And for the first several days, everybody on all those shows were, and the Fox shows, they were saying it's the movie, it's the movie. The movie thing never made sense to me. So you can talk about the talking points, and that does become just, okay, these are the people who put it together. Why did they put it together? That doesn't seem to be worthy of this much investigation, but fine, let them have it. The other day, last week, it was, okay, what happened that night? And what you discover what happened that night is there was no way for any military intervention from the distances where they were. Now you have Gates, former Defense Secretary Gates, backing them up on that. No one has come out with any contradiction to the idea that it was impossible to get any military assets there.
That's right. And I think we're still trying to figure out what happened there. You had the release of some suspects, photographs of some of the suspects that they pulled from some of the surveillance videos there. So still, there is a mystery about what went on the ground there, who actually was involved. And you've had this president be very cautious in jumping to conclusions about any of these sorts of international incidents. I think the Republicans have always felt like this was a president who was soft on terror, loath to use the word terrorism. So this is sort of a part of that whole idea that they believed for a while.
Well, this ISA thing today, I mean, absolutely insane. He's drawing a distinction between active terror and terrorism. We have to hear him say it. We've got him saying this thing.
The words that are being used carefully, like you just said, active terror. An active terror is different than a terrorist attack. The truth is, this was a terrorist attack.
Active terror is different from a terrorist attack. In the opening of the show, we heard George W. Bush using active terror. I mean, saying something like that is the most open way Darrell Issa can say, I'm absolutely desperate. I don't think I have anything.
Right. I don't have much. So I'm playing these sort of semantic games around diction and what's an active terror versus what is terrorism. Again, I think you found from Americans, they're not really keyed into this. I think there was a Pew poll out a couple of days days ago that said 56% of people weren't even paying attention to these hearings, but you have from Republicans a real drive. And this is about the base, right? I mean, they have wanted to malign this president for a while, and I think you'll see this play out for a while with 2014. But the president, I mean, from the very beginning, I think he won that debate moment when you had Romney go at him, and then very emotional when he was talking about Susan Rice with that press conference. And again, a real flash of anger here and outrage that these conversations are still going on and impugning his character.
Nia Malika Henderson, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, Senator Al Franken is going to be my next guest.